Well, with local councils shutting down youth clubs and council youth projects across the country since New Labour and the Tories bailed the City of London out, what has been the impact on the ground? We went to Charlton FC's grounds in southeast London to speak to former Premier League footballer and author of Soccology, Inside the Hearts and Minds of the Professionals, Kevin George. Kevin, here we are at the Valley Charlton Athletics football ground. Tell me about Soccology.
Soccology is a book that takes you into the hearts and minds of people from all around the world. So you've got footballers who have played at the highest level, but you've also got leadership managers who manage at KPMG, a psychophysicist at the University of Montreal. And it's about just explaining below the surface what goes on within these people to help them perform at the top, and also what happens when they're feeling low. So Soccology is research about all of that, and also giving people support who are in those lows right now.
And in the book, you write very movingly of how the survival instincts on the street, and those are real survival skills, can be useful on the pitch. That's why we've seen so much talent all around the world on football pitches.
For sure, you always hear players talking about where they come from, tough backgrounds. You see it in the papers. But I feel that football doesn't acknowledge that those people are still vulnerable. So we take them in, we think, okay, they got that courage, they got that bravery, they come from that tough background. They even scout in those areas. But we neglect the fact that they're still vulnerable and that there's going to be spillages of unfortunate behaviours.
But there's obviously so much money in the game. For instance, those who are successful and then, or maybe initially successful, there's no aftercare?
No. Actually, that's a bit harsh for now. It's getting better. However, people are not aware of the issues. So these are kind of like, I could say we could do with therapeutic interventions. But if I'm at a club, if I'm a coach, a manager or a chief exec, and I'm unaware of how to do that, how can I then provide the aftercare that is needed? And that's what's tough. So at the moment, aftercare is becoming a conversation, but there's not much happening. So at the moment, aftercare will show up in, let's provide education on jobs when they retire, for example. Let's provide education on mental health. But actually, if we...
Because you are talking about it like it's PTSD.
Well, in some instances, yes. Me personally, I had anxiety when I was playing football. I didn't even know what anxiety was. I didn't even know I was going through it, but I had it. Now, when we look at, we can look at the past, but even now, what the issue is, we have people housing issues that they're unaware of and they don't know how to manage. So when players retire, you have so many who disappear. They think, okay, what am I going to do with my life? Because ever since I was 9, I've been in an academy. How do I apply that same work ethic and dedication to something else? I don't even know where to start. And on top of that, my skill set is not going to allow me to go in at a higher level. So now I'm starting at the beginning again. It's tough. And in terms of aftercare, I think, yes, more can be done, but the clubs, it's not a criticism. They're not doing enough at the moment.
Theresa May says she's doing more than any previous Prime Minister about mental health. At the same time, the Professional Football Association is saying it's seeing a rise in mental health issues in the game. How do you explain that difference?
I've only looked at the surface level with regards to what services are out there, but my personal gripe is that when we speak about mental health, we always talk about mental illness. So there's a mass ill education now when it comes to mental health, because people say mental health speak out. I don't really see anything happening within schools. I see a lot of schools who cannot afford mental health services. So you have some schools that have counsellors, some don't. I personally do counselling out of school on a Friday, and it blew my mind to the stuff that kids are going through. It made me think of when I was in school. I was thinking, well, what was everybody else going through? Because this is just one school that I'm in on a Friday. Why wait until people leave and become adults so the problem's already festered and damaged them? Why not start in schools? So if we're going to be investing in services, actually every school should have a counsellor. That's the first issue. We should also be looking at education from a well-being perspective and embracing all types of learning styles, which we're not doing. So that means, as I mentioned myself before and said I had low self-esteem in education, I see it play out in so many other ways. I was so lucky that I had a solid foundation at home. A lot of people don't have that. So if you have that at school, you've got unfortunate circumstances at home, then it's likely you're going to be doing wrong things because you've got the school to prison pipeline, which is statistically proven as well. So I think when we look at Theresa May and saying, okay, we're putting more money into it, sometimes more money could actually be encouraging the problem. That doesn't actually say anything about the strategy. And I feel when we're talking about mental health, we should be looking at emotional literacy, empowering people to actually be able to manage their feelings effectively and manage situations and relationships. I don't see it happening personally.
Let's go back to the beginning, as it were. The book makes clear that football scouts roam working class communities looking for aspiring footballers, looking for talent. What do you make of the fact that, for instance, to bail out the banks, there's been a 1 billion cut in real terms over 6 years on young people's services? Can football clubs at the moment see the effect of the cuts in youth clubs and so on?
For sure. You see the effect in their performance and how they play, but you also see the effect on behaviour. So now these kids are bringing even more social issues, whether it be from parents, what their parents are going through at home, drug abuse, whether you see neglect. So kids are now having to bring themselves to football clubs and they're turning up late. So they've got the stresses of home life, but they're getting the stresses from the football club saying we're going to get rid of you if you're not there on time. And these are all lessons about, I learned so much from my youth club about discipline and building rapport, even my football skill. So when we look at, say, Paul Gascoigne and all these people in the past, they had that. You know, some people, that's their way of surviving. They wouldn't have had a career or made it even into adult life, because those people are providing the safety. But not only that, they can actually see out of hours, hold on a minute, something's not right. I need to flag this up with social services and save this child. So this is massive. It's actually bigger than football.